The Blackout. I hate the dark, always have. Maybe it's childish, but something about it has never felt empty to me. There's always that nagging feeling that something is watching, something just beyond sight, waiting. That's why when the power cut out that night, I felt my stomach tighten. The storm outside had been raging for hours, rain pounding against the windows, wind rattling the glass. The occasional boom of thunder shook the walls. I told myself it was just a temporary outage, nothing unusual. But as I stood in the suffocating silence of my powerless apartment, I couldn't shake the unease crawling up my spine. I pulled out my phone, flicked on the flashlight, and let the dim beam cut through the darkness. Shadows danced along the walls as I moved. I needed candles. As I reached the kitchen, I heard it. A creak, software, deliberate. I froze, my breath catching in my throat. It came from the hallway, right near my bedroom door. My mind raced. I lived alone. The front door was locked. I was sure I had locked it. Hadn't I? Another creak. Closer this time. The air in the room suddenly felt thick, heavy, like the atmosphere had shifted. My heart pounded against my ribs as I forced myself to take a step forward. I lifted my phone, angling the light toward the hallway. Nothing. Just shadows stretching across the walls, flickering as my hand trembled. I swallowed hard. It's just the storm, the wind, the house settling. I repeated these excuses in my head, but my body wasn't buying it. Every instinct screamed at me that I wasn't alone. I needed to get to my charger. The only one I had was in the bedroom. The thought of stepping into that pitch-black space made my skin crawl, but I had no choice. Slowly, carefully, I moved toward the hallway. Each step felt impossibly loud against the wooden floor. The phone light flickered. It was running low on battery. I picked up the pace. Then I heard it. A whisper. My name. Right behind me. I spun, phone shaking in my grip, but there was nothing. Just darkness stretching endlessly beyond the reach of my light. My breath came in shallow gasps. I wasn't imagining this. Something was in here with me. I took a slow step back toward my room, my body locked in fight or flight mode. As I reached the door, the phone light dimmed again. The battery was about to die. I sprinted inside and slammed the door behind me, locking it. Darkness pressed against the edges of my vision. My phone gave one final flicker. Then the light died completely. I was blind. Silence stretched around me. The only sound was my own ragged breathing. Then, from the other side of the door, a scratch, slow, dragging. I covered my mouth to stifle a whimper. The scratching stopped. Then, click. The door unlocked. My breath caught in my throat. I never touched the lock. My hands were shaking too much to move, but somehow, some way, it had unlocked. The door creaked open an inch. Cold air rushed in, and I knew I wasn't alone in this room anymore. I couldn't see it, but I felt it. Breath tickled my ear. Then a voice so quiet it barely registered over the pounding of my heart. Found you. Cold fingers wrapped around my throat. And then, nothing. Lights out. I've never been afraid of the dark. Not really. But when the power went out that night, something felt wrong. At first, I blamed the storm. The wind had been howling for hours, rattling my windows, and the rain slammed against the roof in angry sheets. When the lights flickered once, twice, then died completely, I sighed, grabbing my phone. I turned on the flashlight, its weak glow casting long, stretching shadows across my apartment walls. I needed candles. I stepped toward the kitchen when I heard it. A creak. It came from the hallway near my bedroom. I froze. My heart hammered against my ribs. I lived alone. The sound could have been the wind, maybe the house settling. But as I stood there, holding my breath, I heard it again. closer this time. I lifted my phone's flashlight, aiming it toward the dark hallway. The beam barely reached the end. Nothing was there. At least, nothing I could see. I swallowed hard, forcing myself forward. My charger was in my bedroom. If my phone died, I'd be trapped in the dark. I took one step, then another. The floor creaked beneath me, but the sound wasn't from my own movement. It was behind me. I spun around, the light shaking in my grip. The living room was empty, the front door still locked. My eyes darted to the windows, shut, secure. Another sound, not a creak this time, a whisper, software, breathy, my name. The phone almost slipped from my grasp. I whipped back toward the hallway, my pulse a drumbeat in my ears. Something moved, a shadow, just at the edge of my vision. I stumbled backward. "Hello?" My own voice sounded foreign, shaking. No response. The air in the apartment felt heavier, wrong, like something unseen was pressing in, waiting. I turned and bolted for my room, shoving the door shut behind me. My fingers fumbled with the lock. My breath came in short, panicked gasps. The flashlight flickered. No, no, no. The phone screen dimmed, warning me of the battery. The only light left was the faint glow under the door from the storm outside. Then, click. My bedroom door unlocked. I couldn't move. The knob turned slowly, as if whatever was outside wanted me to know it was coming in. The door creaked open an inch. A whisper slithered through the gap, impossibly close. "Found you." The light died. Dead of night. I don't know when the power went out, but I woke up to pitch darkness. The kind of darkness so thick it feels like it's pressing against your skin. My phone was dead. Of course it was. I fumbled around for my bedside lamp, flicked the switch, and got nothing. Thunder rumbled in the distance. I sat up, straining my ears. Something felt wrong. The air was heavy, thick with something I couldn't quite place. My apartment was silent, but not the comfortable kind of silence. It was the sort that made my skin prickle, the kind that felt like something was listening. I pulled my covers tighter around me. Maybe it was just my nerves. Power outages weren't unusual during storms, but as I reached for my flashlight in the drawer, I froze. There was a sound, a slow, deliberate creak, not from my apartment, from the hallway outside my door. I held my breath, ears straining. Another creak. Footsteps. Someone was out there. I glanced toward the window, but the storm outside swallowed the city in darkness. The usual glow of streetlights and neon signs was gone, leaving nothing but an endless void beyond the glass. I turned back to my bedroom door. The footsteps had stopped. I swallowed hard. Maybe it was just my neighbor. Maybe they were checking their breaker. Maybe I was letting my imagination get the best of me. Then the doorknob turned. Not a test, not a casual jiggle. Someone was trying to open my door. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. The knob rattled harder, more urgent. The door was locked. Thank God it was locked. But that didn't stop the slow, deliberate scratching that started at the wood. Nails dragging down the surface. I clamped a hand over my mouth, forcing myself to stay silent. Then, a whisper. Low, rasping, right outside the door. "I know you're awake." My stomach dropped. I scrambled for anything. My phone, my flashlight, a weapon. But my hands were shaking too hard to grip anything. The whispering continued, soft and sickly sweet. "Let me in." I wanted to scream. My pulse pounded in my ears, drowning out everything but that voice. Then, silence. For a long, unbearable moment, there was nothing. Just the wind howling outside, the distant rumble of thunder. I stayed frozen, straining to hear even the slightest movement. Then something slid under the door. A piece of paper. My hand trembled as I reached for it. In the darkness, I could barely make out the words scrawled in jagged handwriting. I found you. A floorboard creaked inside my room. I wasn't alone.